Give me your latest reporting on Rodgers, Jets, Packers. What do you got for me?
Sure. I mean, we've talked about this. I stand by what I've said. I think this thing is on the doorstep. And whether it gets done tomorrow or the draft, I think is sort of up to Mark Murphy and Woody Johnson. I know it's weird to bring up those names, but I do think the general managers and the coaches are at a point now where they've sort of worked this, and it's going to come down to optics in a certain way. I think the second round pick this year, I think that there's some level of agreement in that. And then, I think there's going to be a high pick in 2024. And the question is going to be, what sort of conditions do you have on that? How's that pick dressed up? And the reason why optics are important here, I mean, I think after what Denver went through last year with Russell Wilson, the Jets want some protection against that happening, right? And the Packers want to, be able to say, we got good value for a guy who might be the best player in the history of our franchise, or is certainly up there, especially after, what happened with Brett Favre, where although they came out of it okay, there was some egg on their face that he wound up with the Vikings, So I think, for two guys in Mark Murphy and Woody Johnson, who are sort of the long-term stewards of these teams and who were involved in the Favre trade 15 years ago, a lot of this is going to boil down to how do we come out of this, at being able to claim to our fans, we got to win here, and come out of it in a place where we're going to be in a good shape, not just for the next couple of years, but for the next 5 or 10 years. And so, again, Woody wants to protect, I think, against that being the 5th pick or the 10th pick overall if Rodgers were to get hurt or there was some sort of downturn in his play. And I think Murphy wants to come out of this, being able to say, we got full value for, a player who's, going to be a Pro Football Hall of Fame.
But, I mean, let's just brass tacks it, and I'm sure they are as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we're not talking about Rodgers at age, 29, we're talking about him at age 39. And we're not talking about, Rodgers is kind of tugging at his own heartstrings about staying put. He's announced his intention to leave. And he also said he was 90% retired. And before he went into his retreat, where he spent some time with his thoughts about retiring and not, and what have you. So if you're the Jets, you hear all this, and you're like, really, a one, no matter what he does this year, for sure. I mean, and the Packers can push back and say, he is 39 and he did do this and that, the other thing, but he's still Aaron freaking Rodgers, and he's a hell of a lot better than Zach Wilson. How can they not come back? Maybe that's why it is on the 1-inch line, because let's just do it. Figure out what it is. And I think in your reporting in Sports Illustrated, you kind of threw out there what it could be. I'll give you the floor on that, Albert.
Yeah, so I think part of it, and part of the concern for the Jets too is that they only get him for a single year. Now I think they think they're going to get him for 2, but I mean we don't know how Rodgers is going to feel a year from now.
Of course not.
So the answer there would be, do you attach a conditional 25 pick to it? If the Jets, if say he plays 2 years, then if he plays only 1 year, well then there's some sort of give back, from the Packers to the Jets to protect them. Say you say, okay, we're going to give you a conditional 1 next year. And then, if he only plays 1 year, well, then the Packers send the Jets something in 25. There are creative ways to game this, And I think that's sort of, where they've been. And I think that and honestly, one of the things I brought up with you was, how important the relationships are here, right? Well, I mean, the general managers, I think, have worked really hard at this, and Brian Gutekunst and Joe Douglas have tried to be very creative about it. And I think that they're honestly, I think they're probably close to, where they could say, okay, we're comfortable with X, Y, and Z. Let's pick a scenario here. I think that it really comes down to, figuring out a creative way to make this work for everybody. And I'm with you. I think that should be available to everybody here. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes deadlines to get these things done. So the next 2 checkpoints, one is Monday, which, it would be great for the Jets and it would be great for the Packers to be able to go into Monday and say, here's, some finality to the whole thing, right? They both open their off-season programs. Robert Saleh will be in front of an auditorium with his players. Matt LaFleur, same thing with his players in Green Bay. And it would be great for Matt LaFleur to be able to address that room with Jordan Love as the quarterback. And it would be great for Robert Saleh to address his room with Aaron Rodgers in the fold. So that's the first, checkpoint. You get past that checkpoint, then the next checkpoint's the draft. And I think that's the real tension point because at that point, if you're talking about a pick this year, it has to happen then. So I would say those are the two, so-called deadlines. I think one is a soft deadline. That would be Monday. And then, I think Thursday is a week or 2 weeks from today, which is the first night of the draft, will be a little bit harder of a deadline.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.